live right now just so that we are in integrity. And hello, everyone. I actually have Mojda here with me already. Mojda, I will go ahead and do a quick intro if you wanted to go do that thing really quick and we'll come back
Okay,
on. But thank you so much for being here, everyone. We're just going to chill and wait for everyone to join on. Mojda, I'll see you again here in a few.
sounds
And wow, everyone, I am so excited we are here together. Today is a really beautiful day to connect. And I'm just playing around with all these different settings here and seeing what looks good as we get started. Just so exciting to be here today on the 17th of September, 2022. And I'm called to actually drop in with a little bit of music. So, and also with some improvisational poetry to just create the space of intention. So, we're going to do it based off of some beautiful wisdom from a fortune cookie. And the fortune cookie had some really good wisdom today, so I'm excited to share that with you. I actually prepared it on a banner there. So if you are listening, feel free to share what you're up to, what you're creating, who you are, where you're watching from. And this beautiful fortune cookie, I went ahead and added a little bit to the end of it. It said, "Your laugh and enthusiasm inspire those around you." And I added, "Your laugh and enthusiasm inspire those around you to be themselves." And I said, wow, thank you, fortune cookie, because I aspire to do that myself, and I'm intending that we all do that together. So with this to inspire me, as we wait for people to come in, as the fellow authors are chilling backstage, I'm going to drop us into this sacred space of sacred feminine, but also the sacred masculine, coming into unity through conscious, organic conversation today, through some poetry, inspired by this quote from this fortune cookie. Your laugh and enthusiasm inspire those around you to be themselves. What does it mean to be ourselves as we start to unchain ourselves from all of our own perceptions of what we think we should and shouldn't be doing? We are starting to realize, wow, I am worthy. We are worthy. And as I welcome this awesome comment from Hal Fulton, I am so excited to invite everyone from LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook to be here today. And as I create a world with others where we can honor all parts of ourselves, Mr. Fulton here is actually commenting on a time when I was in a different space and time, one where I wasn't always doing so public in my rhymes. And as I do this improv poetry in this now, I remember the time that he's referring to when I so badly wanted to be on the first manned mission to the moon and Mars, for first modern mission to the moon and the first mission to Mars. And I knew that the stars were a part of who I am. And I want you to know, like this quote says, your laugh and enthusiasm inspire those around you to be themselves. So who can you be in this world such that you allow others the space and permission, despite you don't need to give them permission, but just your very presence gives them that extra catalyzing push to be themselves. I'm Meraldo Renee Sarper. That was some improv poetry to drop us into this space with grace and enthusiasm and excitement for the beautiful place we are here in humanity's time on Earth. And today we are going to discuss some beautiful, beautiful insights from The Sacred Feminine, a collection of insights from the higher self. And as I said that, it was 4:44 that we've been live. So we invite all beings, cosmic loving beings, angelic beings to be here with us in this conversation. We invite you to always interact in the chat, and later on I will be sharing a link so that you can even join on video if you choose, so we can really create this to be a conscious conversation. So I'm going to start us off here in a few, but first I want to actually invite Moja just to create the space of truly conversation rather than just me speaking with you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off this background music here and bring Moja on and let her just tell people who she is really quick. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing so wonderful. How is your heart this rising?
Oh, it is so good, so good. I am actually in a course right now. Yesterday, today, and
Yes, tell
tomorrow.
us about it.
It's actually a course with Tony Robbins and Dean, and it's so beautiful. It's a space of love and joy and connection, and that it's like really every single one of us have a true, like, passion, and like each one of us so individual, like we have the blueprint of like us, like it makes us us, and that like really we have something to offer in this world, and it can be a talent, or it can be something that we've gone through in life, that we experienced it, and now we got out in the other side, and now we can, I don't know, maybe it took me 15, 17 years to like go through the healing, and now I can give my healing like to someone else that going through similar thing, and it takes them a year to go through the healing. So, and it's so beautiful, and that person is going to turn around and help someone else, and that person someone helps someone else, and that's the beauty of this planet that we're living in. It's like it's a ripple effect, and we never know, like when we open our mouth and share something, say something, how we're actually impacting someone. So it was so beautiful to be in that space, and I'm so happy to be here with you and with everyone else.
Thank you so much for being here. I will be putting this information back up on the screen, but if you're already like just moved by your energy, be sure to connect with Mojda. And she'll be sharing here soon. I'm going to start as an example for the rest of the authors and for everyone listening. So today will be so organic, yet also have some structure. So I always like to use the yin yang example. You know, there's the flow, but yet there's a little bit of structure to help that energy flow through, so that way we can all flow together through organic conscious conversation, which is part of my mission here on earth as Meraldo Renee Sarper. I am to create beautiful organic spaces for conversation, because that is where we create transformation, through just speaking, and then realizing that we have the tools we need together and the skills we need together. So I will go ahead and start off. I'm going to actually read a short excerpt from The Sacred Feminine, a collection of insights from the higher self. Those of you who this is new to, this is actually a co-authorship with 20 women total, including myself and Mojda too, and others that will be joining us today. And we actually all came together not too long ago, just over a year ago, and we, like a beautiful goddess queens we are, made this book happen. We had a summit. This was all last year. It's just so amazing that happened. Mm-hmm. And so I will be reading an excerpt. And before I do, I just want to share a bit about why I chose to say yes to this. I mean, I remember Jamie, who'll be on later, calling me and telling me about like the investment that it took. And I remember being like, oh, I don't know if I can do that investment. And then I tuned into my spirit, and spirit was like, you'd be silly to pass this opportunity up. Just saying. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make it happen. Made it happen. And so excited, not only for this beautiful book and the portal that this book is, but the connections I made with all these fellow women, these 19 other women. Not all of them will be on live today with us, but they just bring so much wisdom. And before I move on, I want to acknowledge my mom, Nanette, who's on. Aloha. And Victoria. And earlier during my improv poetry, Hal is listening from LinkedIn. So we have three. That's cool. I haven't actually ever had people listen from all three platforms. We've got Hal on LinkedIn, my mom on Facebook, and Victoria on YouTube. So that's dope. So I also wanted to share why I chose the chapter that I did. So I actually wrote about something that kind of brought together my engineering experience along with my community organizing and spiritual experience. So it is called Visions for Regenerative Futures, a techno-spiritual declaration of possibility founded on research and heart-centered leadership. Mouthful, but it was necessary to have a long title because there was just a lot that I was bringing in. And so in this chapter, I'm called to just, I actually could have just put it on the screen as well, but I'll do that maybe later on in the stream. But I talk about, I won't try to show you the full image, but I'll just talk about the balance of the 3 pillars of sustainability or regenerative leadership. So if this is a new term for you, no worry, just sit with it and trust that I'll kind of give you the information you need. But those 3 pillars in the sustainability world are people, planet, prosperity. Some people say profit, or another way to think of it in the permaculture way of thinking is fair share, people care, earth care. And I actually expanded that into a cosmically inclusive view as someone who is a cosmic ambassador connecting with cosmic family. I included it to include all people, all beings across all cosmos, all space and time, Earth and all planets, and also sacred economy across the cosmos. And so I'm going to just go ahead and read to you an excerpt from that. And yeah, here we go. So, some questions for you. And if you're listening intently, I invite you to respond to what I'm saying in the comments. And I'll be putting some of those comments up on the screen as we go through. So, and later on, we'll give you a chance to join on video. What is possible when we acknowledge the past mistakes and move forward with humble grace and a bold motivation to heal the damage we have created? Humanity creates a blank slate of pure and infinite possibilities of lasting, regenerative peace and a sacred economy. Many environmentally guided writings often leave one with a feeling that there is no hope. That is because their focus is more on the problems, which are indeed depressingly numerous through a doom and gloom and blaming perspective. My firm stance is that we all must take 100% responsibility for the state of our planet. The moment I personally took on the ability to respond, the responsibility, and declared responsibility for my part in our human co-creation, my reality shifted. I had the epiphany that while there are a handful of people, both past and present, whose selfish actions hurt the collective, there are magnitudes more people and beings, human, animals, plants, the elements, and cosmic beings, who so deeply yearn for a harmonic order and love. I began to see everything through an opportunity and solution based lens. The issues are complex, but the solution simple. 1. Treat Mother Earth like she's a holy temple. 2. Do unto others as you do unto you. And the third one is the hardest. To thyself, always be true. Humanity must come together and unite. We can look back at history and choose to make it right. Replace a disastrous timeline with a future that is divine. We can harmonize ancient wisdom and the power of community with modern tools of technology and internet unity. And this I'll put up on the screen later is just a little diagram I put together that I'll just explain and maybe put on the screen later on, of showing the balance of ancient wisdom, power of community, technology, and the internet, and knowing that between those spaces, some people may choose off-grid living. And for those people that might not be right for, they find a balance with their consumption. then being able to create positive movements for change and mindful use of technology, utilizing blockchain and Web3, then we can really truly create anything, even help heal any environmental, social, spiritual issues here on planet Earth. And that is a short little reading from The Sacred Feminine from my chapter. I'd love to hear from either Mojda, Jehan, who I'm going to go ahead and add to the stream now, and hear any thoughts that you have on my chapter, and then invite others in the audience too.
Hi. Okay.
Hey, I just added you. I just threw Jehan in. She's like, just threw her into the live stream. Thanks for being here, Jehan.
Hi. Thank you.
Were you able to hear? Were you able to hear when you were in the backstage?
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear any comments. And if you're listening, feel free to comment any thoughts or reflections you had from my reading of Visions for Regenerative Futures.
So what had you choose this topic specifically?
That's a good question. I mean, I really feel like there's so much hope and like, oh, we can do this. I mean, when we're in that mindset as a collective, and then sometimes we're like stuck with, well, what do we really do? And so what I read to you kind of started to scratch the surface with that. But I, going deeper in the chapter, talk about some of this up. Just the titles are "How Do We Gracefully Exit the Money Matrix?" I have a quote from my colleague, Dr. Kelly Gelhoff, who's works hugely in creating sustainable food movements, having everyone be fed and empowered in their food empowerment economy. The role of blockchain, cryptocurrency, technology, and AI, or artificial intelligence, teaching AI love, which is key. And then also actually talking about, I'll put these maybe up on the screen later, but actually I put together kind of a little example neighborhood of like what a 5x5 neighborhood could look like if we start to kind of take the current structure of the neighborhoods specifically and our whole built environment and start to utilize what we have already because it's sustainable to reuse, and also start to build new infrastructure as the existing crumbles. So I kind of talk about, from my engineering experience, the built environment, the physical, but also through this you'll see me using the power of declaration and just visionary energy to say, okay, how do we also build, most importantly, the consciousness and spiritual connection we need in humanity to naturally just like have the solutions emerge. I think that's the key. Like we've realized in this book, writing it together, it goes from the inside out. And through birthing this book together, we all had that experience. So yeah, I'd say I just wrote it because I wanted to, for myself too, co-create a small little glimpse into some solutions that I think could really work. And I think already are starting to work with using community building, using simple solutions we already have, like using plant-based construction materials, and being able to totally flip our economy such that it's based on what people are creating, not consuming. So yeah, that's my answer for that. Thanks for asking, Jehan.
Mm-hmm.
I love what you shared. It allows us like to start thinking. Like it's just like it's very easy to be a consumer on this DNA age, and we're just constantly consuming. But it's so good to just like, it allows you to step back and then to actually like put on a different lens and to look at the life and how other ways that is available and possible for us to like live our life and our like connection with Mother Earth. So it was beautiful. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I like what you said with connection. That's been a big word lately. And just, it's hard, I know. Not always, it's easy sometimes to hide and not want to share ourselves. And I really get that. And I really appreciate what my mom, Nanette, has said here. We need to understand regenerative practices of the grassroots, not from the government. Amen, amen. And I'm so grateful I chose her to be born through, because that's a huge reason why I was able to, now at 31, what I consider to be relatively young, to realize, oh my gosh, I don't have to keep myself small. It is time to step up. And that fractals out from the individual level to community, like my mom's saying, like, there could be some solutions that come from those structures. I actually think there could be some really great partnership between community and government one day, and that's arguably there's already some great beginnings of that. However, if we don't wait on anyone anymore, then we can create that possibility. And my mom just added, yes, our creativity and connections, not overconsumption, which is the old paradigm. What do you both feel about those awesome comments from Nanette just now?
First of all, hi, Mom, Nanette. Thank you for joining us. And also, something that came up for me is for someone that's not exposed to this book, the practices, the regenerative practices, what would you say is one practice that we can take on all together?
Gosh, I think the biggest one is just like carving out at first. Sometimes it's like 5 minutes. If it's like, because I know for me, I'll even get back there sometimes. But when you feel like you have no time for you to, what is being myself? Like, what does that even look like? What is self care? What do I even want to do? And then that ripples out to this bigger conversation we're talking about, because as you actually kind of give that time to yourself, then you can have that inner fortification to feel like, wow, maybe I could make a difference in homelessness or in empowering other women or people. What do you think, Moshe? What's like a simple practice that you feel like people could take away even if they've never read the book?
Regarding your chapter or just overall the
I
book?
think Jehan was saying like overall, in general, maybe you could relate it back to something that an insight of yours.
I would say with mine, I can say just like it always, like healing starts with us. And I really will say that like healing brings healing. It's not time that brings healing. So I would say that like really if you look at life, like it's like it can be the smallest thing, as like losing a path, right? Or like or as big as like losing our parent. Just like really like step back and like just bring the healing in that area. Don't just say, oh, it's not a big deal, because it adds up, and it will like make us to like, without knowing subconsciously, then we create these visions. So it's really good to always, that's what I would say, like overall I would say for my chapter, and like based on some of the other things that I read from other people, is like really like bringing healing into every aspect of our lives, and to be open to things that like the universe will bring into our life.
I really love that, and and then actually added to what she said, just to going back to some of the tactile possible solutions, growing our own food and sharing with others a surplus, a way to ground to Gaia or Mother Earth. Um, and I really, really love that, because what you just said, Moshe, to the first perspective might not seem like it's connected to what Nanette just said, but it really is. Like, why do we feel like we only can go to the store to get our food? It's just because the way it's been. And that can be parallel to the concept of, well, why do I feel like I need to get validation from others when it comes to my creation? So like they're actually like the same experience, but just mirrored in a different, more collective way. And I think as we start to self-fortify, starting at the self, and then, family unit, community, and outward, then we'll be like, oh my gosh, and I just got source ripples. Like, we actually can provide all of our needs. And that's what I talked about in this chapter, of just like, let's have a 5x5 block neighborhood, have everything that neighborhood literally needs, including energy, including food, textiles, everything. Because we could actually do that, especially with really cool technologies that are coming out, where we can harmonize ancient wisdom, indigenous skills with technology. And that, of course, like I say, balance of using that technology as well. And so as we wait for other authors to come on, I went first. I think Moshe is going to go next, and then Jehan. We'll have others join as well. What they'll be sharing is kind of their process of picking that chapter, just organically, why they said yes to the book, if they feel called to share that, and then an excerpt, and we'll just reflect afterwards. Moshe, are you ready to read for
I
us?
would love to, yes.
So I'm going to put your info up too, so it's up there the whole time, so you can connect with her.
So I'm going to share a little bit about me first. So my name is Moshe Sayedi, and I was born and raised in Iran. I came here at age of 11, and I learned English, and then have been working as a nurse for like past 10 plus years. And then recently, I've been focusing on my health in a different aspect by studying Ayurveda in India and like sharing it with my clients through like life coaching. And after doing 17 years of healing, um, I got a call from Jamie, and one of my biggest thing was like, I'm gonna write a book about my life, but I'm not gonna ever print it. I'm gonna put it in a safe with money in it, and then when I die, my kids get to choose like print it or not. And I really when I got the call, and right before it, like I did a week of training, and I got that is like what I went through, I can use to bring love and and joy into the process of healing, and that like what I went through can be a help for someone else that are going through the same process. So I chose in this chapter to share about two of my traumatic experiences of my life out of many that I've gone through. Sorry, I just got a raspy voice.
You're fine. I've been having the same thing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So you actually were vulnerable enough to share the real truth.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna share a part of my chapter, and as I do, I want you to like look at it instead of like listening, just like really put yourself and like listen from that space. And then I'll ask some questions, like which is part of the chapter, and like really answer those questions for yourself now or later. So I'll start it. So I invite you to explore what boundaries of yours were broken by adults when you were a child. How did these interactions impact your life? How are you creating and communicating your boundaries now? What are the ways you allow others to break your boundaries? Boundaries are unspoken rules, set some by society and some by us as individuals. As individual, we have the responsibility to make sure people around us are aware of our boundaries. But how can we communicate our preferences when we don't honestly know what our boundaries are? What happens when sexual boundaries are crossed and the person, for whatever reason, doesn't get to work through the following emotions? The person carries all those feelings from relationship to relationship and then wonders why relationships are unsuccessful. Has someone ever cut you off on the freeway? How did you feel? If you notice, every person reacts differently. It is the same when someone crosses our boundaries. We all react differently. Some might freeze, say or do nothing. Some might yell and scream. Even after the fact, we deal with emotions differently. Some of us might hide an incident forever, pretend it didn't happen by shoving it deep down. Others might process their experience and the feelings that come with it. In any case, if we don't process trauma despite its severity, it can show up in anger, frustration, control, depression, anxiety, or physical illness. And then as a result, we can live a victim, doormat, martyr, or savior. Despite cultural norms and people's judgment, I am here to tell you that you are not alone and you've never been alone. Unfortunately, more than not will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. There are all different kinds of resources out there to assist you on your journey. One of the most important things is to have a safety plan and take care of your physical and emotional well being. Sexual trauma can be taxing on your body emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. It is essential to remember be gentle and kind with yourself every step of the way. It is crucial to process your experiences to live in an empowered life after you are no longer in immediate danger. Be aware of the effects that sexual assault might have on you or someone else. These may include depression, flashbacks, post traumatic disorders, self harm, substance abuse, panic attacks, dissociation, sexually transmitted infections, pregnancy, suicide, eating, and sleep disorder. There are different ways to process our experiences, and I recommend trying as many as possible. Be open minded and give each process a real chance. There are few things I've tried thus far, and one is continuing to be open to the universe so I can receive the next opportunity when my soul is ready. You might use more than one tool, and it is great. One tool might work for a while, then you might need to add another one or switch it entirely. This is like a child who's progressing through different stages of growth. Again, remember to be patient with yourself, have compassion, be gentle with yourself, and celebrate the smallest process. No step is a small step. When a child starts with the very first step of walking, they fall a lot. Yet we encourage them and never make them feel that they failed. We become their champion and celebrate every little accomplishment they make. We are patient with them and help them to keep trying until they successfully walk on their own. This is no different.
Wow. Thank you so much. I love what you shared at the end with the walking analogy because my daughter is walking. She's trying to walk. She's 10
Yeah.
and a half months and she's actually upstairs right now. With my basically my niece, my really good friend's daughter, and she's like helping her walk. And when I was walking down here, she started like taking more steps than she ever has because she loves to show off. Her siblings are here too, so there's like 4 kids plus my daughter up there, and I see her like it's cool because I actually when I step away and allow others to empower with her, she actually shines even more, and then I can still like be like, yeah, you can do this. And your example is so good because we know that they're going to succeed and we know that they're going to walk. And so this applies to our own development of like when we have that goal in our lives or we are realizing we have those traumas we need to heal, then just be in that mindset of like, give yourself time, yet know you will succeed. That's kind of what I pulled away from what you shared.
100%. And we never give up on our child, or we never say like, oh, you're not a walker, you're like you will never can walk. We won't say that ever, but we say those kind of things to ourselves like subconsciously or consciously, like but inside our head. So it's so important to like remember that and then just have that like I always say that it's like have a bigger goal and then have smaller goal and then like have like many smaller steps and then like celebrate every steps that like you accomplish and just remember just be so loving and gentle to yourself. So
I really hear from what you said. This song title by MC Yogi. It's a newer one. It's called Practice, or yeah, Practice Makes Progress. Instead of Practice Makes Perfect, Practice Makes Progress. And then also to celebrate your small wins and progress. I love what you just said. So like putting that into some real practice for me as a mom, like when I get the kids down for a nap, sometimes I'm like, I want to take like 10,000 actions while they're asleep. But sometimes I'll just be like, you know what? I'm going to just get the dishwasher loaded. And I'm so proud of myself for doing that. And then I'm going to go lay down. Like
yeah,
those are the ways that I really love to give myself credit instead of feeling like, oh, well, they're napping. So I better get all these tasks done and all this stuff done. Oh, wow.
that's
Thank you
right.
so much for
You're
sharing
welcome.
that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yep.
Well, you can connect with Mojda on social media. She just read Free as a Bird, which is from our book, Sacred Feminine, a collection of insights from the higher self. And you can find her at Mojda Sayedi. which is right there below, and also on Instagram. And next, I'm going to have Jahan, who is actually one of the leaders, along with Jamie, who will join later, who made this book a possibility. If we had a mom and a dad for this book, or a mom and a mom, I think you have to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Jamie and Jahan, Jamie will be on later. They were like the parents of this book birthing. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself, Jahan.
Hi, my name is Jahan. And so that people are curious about what the J stands for. And the J stands for my American name, Jessica, and my Korean name, Juhyun. And I prefer to go by Jahan. And this book, I'm so honored that Jamie asked to co-create this book together, because we've collaborated in different ways before. And to be able to create this book in less than a year, we were able to bring together collectively 20 women who were ready to step in to share a part of their insights, a part of their story on their journey through this life so far. So I'm very grateful for Do Renee and Moshe that are here today to say yes. And a little bit about myself. I'm a San Diego local and raised by two powerhouse women, not two moms, my mom and grandma. They are both like really such an influence in my life. And because of them, I've learned what it means to be a part of family, what it means to love, what it means to be loved, and to really go all out and live this life that I love. And my mom and I are actually business partners. We have a clothing store in Ocean Beach called Closet, and we're celebrating 24 years in San Diego this year. And yeah, it's such an honor to have this one store we get to put all of our energy and love in. And we have the best team. Like, we just love them so much, and we're able to co-create. We have a couple things coming up this year that we're creating together in the store. That's going to be super fun. And I love to also create a safe space for people to be at peace and express themselves. So having the store and also facilitating meditations with crystal singing bowls and a bunch of other new sound instrument and toys that I got. And also this Thursday, talking about co-creation, one of my good friends, Jen, and I were creating together an event which includes live figure drawing and sound. So one of my best friends since middle school, she's pregnant right now. And so she's going to be the live nude model. And I'll be playing the crystal singing bowls and chimes all throughout and ending it with a sound bath. So if you're in San Diego and you're interested in joining, contact me. It's this Thursday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And let's see. So I will start my chapter. Okay, here we grow. And I love that saying from Betsy, here we grow. My chapter is called Claydon Leads the Way. So have you ever received a sign from the universe through a person, a conversation in passing, songs on the radio, show on TV, or a sign on the street? So this spiritual phenomenon is called a Claydon, pronounced Claydon, an ancient name of spontaneous oracle delivered innocently by the speaker. So I first encountered this word while my dear friend Sarah and we love to pull cards. So we pulled one card out of 3 of her oracle decks. And we like to call this Sarah B2B, Jahan on the decks, like DJs, but with oracle cards or tarot cards. And we think it's funny. And Sarah pulled this card, called Message in a Bottle from the Wisdom of the Oracle deck by Colette Baron Reed, which the word Claydon was in the message. Colette states in a blog post, one of my favorite spiritual phenomenons to talk about is the Claydon. It's a message from the spirit that's innocently and unknowingly delivered to you by someone else or something else. And once you tune in to the Claydons all around you, you'll be truly amazed at the personal and powerful messages Spirit has for you. Though the word Claydon sounds a bit little Star Trek-ish, it's a concept that actually originated in ancient Rome. And for our ancestors in the Roman Empire, it was a common practice to pray to the gods for guidance and then go out into the world to get a message. And people expected to get their insight from Apollo through day-to-day interactions. And for example, they'd overhear a conversation between strangers at the local market, or a friend would unknowingly deliver a message over dinner. So Claydons are still around us at all times. And these are some of my reflections of experiences I've encountered with Claydons so far during this lifetime. So in October of 2018, my mom and I sold our house on Mount Soledad. We had this beautiful custom-built home that overlooked Mission Bay, a home my mom earned and which she never got to fully enjoy because she chose to work in order to keep and maintain the house. And then we moved into a loft that we shared at my grandma's friend's home because we ended up selling the house. And it was a humbling experience to be sharing a room with my mom at age 30. Societal norms have painted a different picture in my mind for being a 30-year-old woman. And also, societal norms are not the life that I'm living. And I was grateful to have a roof over my head, loving family and friends. And at that time, we had 3 of our stores remaining. And we were also patiently waiting to hear back from the last lawsuit, where we were sued for $2 million. And this lawsuit was one of the many lawsuits we had for breaking leases. And unfortunately, due to the climate of brick and mortar of our women's clothing stores, our business, it wasn't sustainable. Luckily, God has sent us an angel of a man, and he helped us through all of our lawsuits, and I will be forever grateful for him. And my mom's faith in Christianity allowed her to receive Claydons through the Bible. And every day she wrote down this passage from the Bible 10 times a day, from Isaiah 41, 10 to 13. So, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. All who rage against you will be surely ashamed and disgraced. Those who oppose you will be as nothing and perish. Those you search for enemies, you will not find them. And those who wage war against you will be as nothing at all. For I am your Lord, your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. And this allowed her perseverance through this obstacle, and we won our case. And my faith in God's source, which I still interchangeably use from universe and God, it made me trust that we were the perfect pair to take these obstacles on and experience in this life. The day we won our trial, I read a message on Instagram from the Healing Energy Tools page, and it said, the universe is saying to you today, everyone goes through tough times in order to test and strengthen the soul. You receive what you need when you need it, and sometimes it brings a lesson about yourself and your world. Know that there is nothing that appears in your life that you are not equipped to face, deal with, overcome, and learn from. And this Claydon for me made me turn the why me's, the victim context, to why me? because I'm the perfect person to overcome these obstacles. And these are the ultimate opportunities of growth. Like, I've taken this experience that rocked us as a blessing, and you gotta get rocked to roll forward. So let's rock and roll.
I love that. I love you've got to get rocked to get forward, or you got to break down to break through, just that concept. And you brought that so perfectly in your story. And thank you so much for being real and sharing the challenges, even the legal challenges that you guys empowered yourselves through, that you beautiful women empowered yourselves through. Because that's going to be a way forward as we stop hiding things that maybe, for some would be like embarrassing to share. For me, I've as I've been healing debt in my life, I've been starting to share more about it, and it's like hard at first because I'm like embarrassed that I even accrued it, and now that I'm healing it, I'm like, okay, now I'm at least doing something about it when I was in denial for so long. And so your story just brought that aspect up for me, and also just the power of like not worrying about societal norms and doing what works for you and your family.
Thank you. And sharing, like I shared about my lawsuit and you shared about debt, like sharing, it shows us that we're not alone. There's someone out there going through the same thing, and us being able to voice that and share that can create this connection and relatability with others. Because that's been also a main focus of like, we're not alone. We're all in this together, no matter what happened. And it goes back to, yeah, like going through the lawsuits. I was like, should I share this? The shoulda, woulda, couldas. And it's part of my experience. That's what happened.
Yeah, it's a huge part of what you were transforming through. So yeah, it's almost like when we get that question, should I, or like the joke of like don't should all over yourself. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, there might be times you're like, well, I won't share that, I won't choose to share that. But then being able to be empowered and like being so vulnerable to where people are like, whoa, she just shared that, but instead of judging you, they're shocked at first, but then they're like, oh, I'm so glad that she shared. I'm gonna, speaking of sharing, because I'm inviting others to join. Hal on LinkedIn said that what you were sharing reminded him of Emerson's poem "Each and All." I don't know that one. Do you know it? Now I want to look it
No.
up. Thanks for sharing that, Hal. At one point, my mom Nanette said that is so beautiful. I can't remember to what specifically, but I put it up around that time. And then when after Moja just shared, Nanette has shared inner practices such as meditation, movement, and sound healing can help us release trauma, heal, and balance, and upgrade from the inside out. Beautiful. Thank you for your story, Mojda. And also before that, she was mentioning something when we were talking about real solutions. Compost and community composting is another practice to regenerate the soil harmed by current monocultural practices, which actually relates perfectly to what we're talking about. Like we were saying, how the external mirrors the internal. So like that compost is sometimes the shit that we go through, and then it actually, oh well, that sucked, but now it's creating this fertile grounds to create, instead of like my mom said here, this monoculture practices, specifically with agriculture, like just artificial chemicals. Like sure, it'll produce, but how sustainable is it? Eventually that land's just going to get burnt out and the food's not going to be as good. So it's like an example of just putting on a front and saying, oh, I'm fine, or posting pictures on Instagram with all these cool cars that you're leasing. Like, or can you be real and say like, hey, I'm actually going through this right now? And that's what I'm loving. I've started to attract more social media towards me through the different algorithms that they use now. I feel like it's starting to shift where I'm like getting the content I want to see, and I'm getting a lot of people who are sharing vulnerably too. And that's been really, really powerful. So, any other things you want to share from your chapter, or just reflections on your journey to get there?
Yeah, with spirit speaking to me, to you, it's all around. And it's having that expanded awareness of, okay, like, because I notice sometimes when I'm in the zone, when people say they're in the zone, my vision, it's just straight in front of me. And when we have this expanded awareness where we get to see outside of what's straight ahead and even hear, like we never know who we're going to come across, what we're going to see, what we're going to hear, and trusting that spirit's all around, which goes back to trusting yourself. That's been a big thing for me this week. It's like, okay, trusting myself and all that I'm creating and up to, and spirit's got my back. God's got my back.
And especially with the different challenging energies right now, specifically with the 6 planets in retrograde, as some of us may know, and then just a lot of energies coming from the cosmos. It's like a fire hose of energy just blasting us. And sometimes it can be hard to see those signs, or sometimes we have so many, it becomes like so numerous. You're like, oh my gosh, so many six, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. I know I ebb and flow between the two. So I put up the definition of Cladon, because I think it's just a really cool. It's similar to a synchronicity. Would you say that's another word for it? Similarly,
It's similar because synchronicities are, yeah, like the events that happen right there, and then the Cladon is the message that comes through.
okay, that
See.
makes sense. So for me, this rising, similarly, it would be like the fortune cookie I read this morning, this afternoon right before eating before this, and I read it to start our live stream because it felt like a really good message for me to get, and it felt like it was the universe telling me, yes, you're exactly where you need to be. It said your laugh and enthusiasm inspire those around you to be themselves. And I was like, oh, thanks, universe. That's what I'm trying to do. So I accepted that, and I see that as like a Cladon, because that was like the literal message. We actually intuitively decided to go to Panda Express because I'm watching some kids upstairs here, so I'm watching my kids, and I was like, let's get Panda because we don't have a lot of time to cook when we get back to the home. So like it was totally intuitive choice. So that was like the synchronicities that led us to get the fortune cookie. So thanks for breaking that down. Can you say a little bit more on Cladon's? Just be like off the cuff. I know you read it in your chapter, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, for example, some people, depending on what spiritual practice or religion, when they read whatever material, for example, the Bible, like my mom did from Christianity. So whatever speaks to her, that she has that as a sign. And also it's whenever I meet someone and they have something to say and it resonates with me, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I can either take that, or if it doesn't resonate with me, I don't have to take that. So things that you hear, you don't have to really do anything with it. It's whatever comes in that moment to you. If it resonates, great. If not, then let it be.
Um, oh, nice. Someone else shared. I think of a Cladon as coming through a person. Can you, Hal, I'd love to hear any experiences you'd like to share about when you've had a Cladon come in, if you feel comfortable sharing in the chat. And then soon I'll share a link to get on video in a little while. As we wrap up, Jehan, what experiences specifically through a person have you had?
Specifically through a person. There's been so many experiences. Okay, specifically through a person. When one of my mentors had shared with me, like, I trust you. When are you going to trust yourself? And I took that on as, okay, Spirit is speaking through my mentor to trust myself, because there's sometimes in times where I second guess myself and I'll be stopped, or I don't say anything at all. And it's like, okay, I've got all the tools that I know and I have, and to really share the gifts and not be stopped by it. And has there been any times where Spirit has, or anyone that has spoken with you?
Yeah, all shares we intend others share as well. Um, I've had in so many it's hard to keep track, but I when going through what I went through before leaving an abusive relationship, I can't even remember her name, but someone was sharing with me, and she said like when she was talking about something else, not related to me, but she's like, when are they gonna stop lying to themselves? And it just struck this chord in me, and I got sore circles or chills, and I was just like, in that moment, I started to break through the Stockholm syndrome that many of you may relate to if you've been in an abusive situation. And it was like me breaking through, and it was like, stop lying to yourself. And it was like chipping away at the glass enclosure around a dam, which was so easy to break if I had just taken some time to face it. And as soon as I started breaking at it, that dam broke wide open, and I was like, waking up and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been allowing this, because really it's a choice I was making. And I was really grateful for that experience. Hal actually said sometimes a friend or even a stranger will unknowingly say something right as I said that, very relevant, needed to my circumstance. So true. Thank you for sharing that, Hal. I really appreciate that. We're going to have Victoria and others join on soon, and Jamie as well will be coming soon. And so as we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and share a link to the chat and up on the screen, because depending on your platform, um, you may not be able to click on it. So link to join on video, I'm going to put that here. And what you'll do, if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to click that link. And if not, you might have to just copy it. I think it is case sensitive. So just streamyard.com/those numbers and letters. And as you consider joining live, I'm going to read an excerpt from April Strickland. April, actually, I'll get her name here in a minute. I might get her last name wrong. April has a really great chapter, and she instructed me on what to read as she couldn't join us live. So I'm going to go ahead and read that chapter for you. Not the whole chapter, but an excerpt. And feel free to join on video. And Jehan, if you're still able to stick around, totally do, and we'll continue to hear from you. And April is one of our co-authors who also has a YouTube channel. I believe it's called Well-Being with April. So give me a sec. It's April Stickelman. Yeah, April Stickelman. And her chapter is called Nourish to Flourish. So it's chapter 2, Nourish to Flourish. And if you're wondering, how do I get a copy of The Sacred Feminine? Well, the way we decided to do it in the spirit of sacred economy is we actually all sell our own individual copies. So if you know an author, then contact that author. If you don't know one, I'm happy to help you get a copy. It is technically on Amazon. However, we sell them by ourselves with the permission of the publisher, so that we can have that sacred economy help us get the energy back for our energy for the book. So message us, message me if you want to know how to get a copy of the book and help support the authors. So this is chapter 2, Nourish to Flourish by April Stickelman. And she requested I read this message from higher self. And don't forget, join the link there to join on video, and I'll get you joined in on the video to just share anything you're getting from this conversation, or really anything that you'd like to share at all. A message from the higher self. Sweet loved one, you are a precious gift to this world and humanity for future generations. The uprising and evolution are in your hands through your way of being. Celebrate this gift of life by exploring the omnipotence of your creative power, by continuously seeking expanded awareness of your connection through all that is. Pure consciousness. Just letting that soak in. Pure consciousness. Dear love, live your life to the fullest. by connecting with your innate wisdom and fully expressing your creative power. Joy, love, and abundance are always yours here throughout every moment. Tap into them. Receive in gratitude through all of your senses. Set the intention to thrive at that frequency, experiencing the greatest gifts of all. Feeling connected is your key to true freedom. Feel the surrounding love. Let it flow through you. Welcome the highest level of enjoyment and prosperity into your life experience. Maintaining this presence and being fully attentive to life around you, your loved ones, your community, and all that grace your presence. The connection grows stronger throughout human consciousness. You are here to witness the uprising of humanity. I'm going to repeat that again. You are here to witness this uprising of humanity. You are a significant contribution to the evolution of life on this planet and in the universe. Relinquish your fear, for it only hinders your connection to the strength of life flowing through you. Optimize the use of your senses and consciousness to experience pure love and joy. Oh, wow, that is so, so powerful. To experience pure love and joy around you. Realize the greatness of this gift as you expand your capacity to receive. Know you are always connected to the greater consciousness that moves through you and all human beings. You are the universe expressed as a unique contribution to life. Realize this power. Hold it sacred. Feel the gratitude within your heart for this precious life you behold. Thank you for being. Greatest blessings, your higher self. That was so powerful. Thank you so much, April, for sharing that. This is volume 1, as you can see, and we are going to create a volume 2 of the Sacred Feminine. And if you are interested in actually being a part of that or sharing it with someone, I'm going to actually put the information in the comments so that way you guys can join that. And I'm going to actually see if Jehan, if you're there, feel free to come off mute and video to share more about that volume 2. Because I think there might be some people, I know you have about 10 minutes before you have to go, who would like to join. And like my mom says, it's all about that pure consciousness and uprising of humanity. Like April said in her chapters just now, higher self, unity consciousness. And we do that by writing together and creating. Can you share more about this volume 2?
Yes. So we are starting to, Jamie and I, we got together earlier this month to start the creative process of volume 2. So if you've ever wanted to become an author, share your story. Maybe you didn't even know you wanted to become an author and you want to share your story. This is a opportunity to join the Sacred Feminine Insights from the Higher Self Volume 2. And with this volume, you don't need to know what you're going to talk about just yet. We can have brainstorming sessions, and Merle has created writing bubbles. And so this is a whole process of, having the idea and then having writing bubbles where we get to come together and intentionally write during those times. So with the volume 1, there's a sense of, for me, there was a sense of freedom and to write. And I never thought I'd be an author before. And this has been such a healing journey as well.
Absolutely. It was a healing journey for me too.
And Merle has been such a great, essential part of volume 1. And she will be a part of volume 2 as well.
Woo, woo. I'm so excited for that. Gosh, it's just like, Oh, there's this up leveling energy right now. And speaking of which, just as we're dropping cool invites to our creations, there's an up level summit that's coming up later this month. I won't go on to all the details now, but follow me online. You can see all the information. The Up Level World Summit, and that title reminds me of this energy we're in right now, Jehan, of like, okay, wow, we just had the craziest 2 years. And now how do we integrate that? How do we let that spiral us upward? And we're having volume 2 after volume 1 of Sacred Feminine coming out. Personally, my first book, Cosmic, I'm working on the sequel called Cosmic 2.2 Level Up. And yeah, there's just like this, it's totally overwhelming at times, a lot of the time. And it almost feels like we're at this perpetual top of the roller coaster. That's at least my experience. And also that feeling of your stomach being in your throat kind of feeling at times. I was actually feeling that physically on the swings yesterday with my son. And after I got up off because I was on it, it was almost overwhelming when I was getting really hard with the swings. And I realized like that's where we're at with humanity. We're just going to be in this ebb and flow. So, Jehan, is there anything else you'd like to say to in general, especially to maybe if someone's thinking about it to become an author, but they don't know, maybe you could be the Claydon for them to say yes.
Just say yes. Say yes. Say yes to the process. Say yes to yourself. Yes to humanity. What's been so beautiful about this creation is that how when the world has been shifting, we can either take a couple paths. One path is to be stopped and be in this world of worry and like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? And the flight or fight stance and be there. Or like all of us, we chose to take a route in, okay, how can we share our story? How can we make a difference in humanity and elevate consciousness together? And so it's been a beautiful process and unfolding of the sacred feminine and continually discovering what that means to each of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just like it was a cool experience because we created this whole community. And with the sacred, the volume 2 will be women again, right? Women, all cool. I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm talking with some other people as well, using the same publishing company we used to look at creating some co-authorships with multiple all genders, also just like different kinds of ways we can collect stories. And what's so cool is like, whatever all that ends up being is like we now in this new earth that we're creating, we get to create whatever we want. And yes, sometimes that means we're creating a lot of destruction and fighting. And I think that as long as we're doing our best to engage in peace, that all we can do is hold space that those actions will start to dissolve as we ripple out a higher consciousness of love. So focus on that creation, write, dance, heal, whatever it needs to be. And so being part of this co-authorship could be the path for you. So, Jehan, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have to hop off, but there's information I'll leave up for a moment longer to join volume 2 of The Sacred Feminine, a collection of insights from the higher self. And Hal just said he knows 1 or 2 women who might contribute. So thank you, Hal, for commenting, and please do share this information with them so that way they can consider this for them. Just tell them they can email, no pressure, because they might realize it's not for them, but they might realize it is for them or someone else, and then you have to make that connection. At least say yes to explore, right?
Thank you so much, Jo Renee, for hosting this lovely morning, well, afternoon where you are, and for being a part of this co-creation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jehan. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Well, everyone, I want to show you a really cool creation. Let's see, you should still be able to hear me, but you will not see my face because I am going to share the visions for regenerative future. And remember, down at the bottom of the screen, you can join my video. I might not join you right away, but if you join at that link, then you can join with us here on this end to share anything you're up to creating. This is an organic, conscious conversation space where we create transformation. So let's go ahead and play this video, which is a huge basis of my chapter, Visions for a Regenerative Future in the Sacred Feminine. So I'm going to go ahead and get that video playing. Looks like it is sharing the sound, so let's see. I'm intending it works perfectly. Visions for Regenerative Futures by Do Renee. A techno-spiritual declaration of what's possible, with a foundation of research and heart-centered leadership. Let's level up sustainability and remember our worth. Let's lovingly burn away all obstacles to peace on earth. Heal our vanity, love our humanity, invoke community, unveil our unity. I am Maral Do Renee Sarper, visionary author, coach, and mother, declaring abundant timelines for humanity and the cosmos. It's time for blockchain and beyond. It's time for a sacred economic world that works for all. What's possible if we co-create a truly accountable and transparent economy? All answers await us through our interconnection. We invoke power through decentralization and collective ownership of our economy. Web3 gives control back to people. Distributed networks and digital resilience create autonomy. What's possible when we acknowledge the past mistakes and move forward with humble grace? What's possible when we heal the damage we have created? It's never too late. We will harmonize ancient wisdom, and the power of community will be catalyzed by modern tools. We can find balance between ancient wisdom, power of community, and technology and the internet. Between all these things, we find mindful use of electronics, off-grid living for those that can do that, and positive movements for change. By harmonizing all these things, we can see there is no right or wrong way. We need a regeneration of biodiversity and a quantum leap in collective healing. Drop our news feeds and weapons and plant seeds of possibility. Reap the harvest of aligning our intent with our highest truths. Continually composting what we let go of into rich soil for future generations, both physically and spiritually. Magnetize the infinite timelines where we choose peace and open contact with cosmic family, accepting the truth we are not alone and we can level up. How do we actually build our now and our future? Well, it's going to take a lot of ideas, but here are some of my perspectives from my chapter in The Sacred Feminine, a collection of insights from the higher self. We choose a cosmically inclusive view of the three pillars of sustainability and regenerative thinking. This includes all people, all beings, Earth, and all planets across the cosmos, with which we can create sacred economy and level up our humanity to be a part of a cosmic world, cosmic universe. Create all needs of microzones and witness local economy arise. We can use a 5x5 block neighborhood for an example. We can create all of our needs just in a small neighborhood, from energy production to food production, and even having local markets and energy harnessing parks and food distribution across the whole neighborhood, such that everyone has what they need, and even have things like amusement parks in that neighborhood. As you can see here in this legend, we can even have housing for greenhouse employees, and one could rotate as free housing as a work unit for those who are struggling with homelessness. A circular bridge and bike path could connect all of these neighborhoods such that transit could connect all of these beautiful co-creations. Now there's much more I could say, but please share with me your regenerative visions. Namaste. All right. Regenerative futures. What does that really mean? It's a future where we not only heal the past, but we co-create in the present, actively building for the future. And in the physical way, that could mean healing the damage that's been done to our environment through our actions, creating energy systems even beyond renewable energy that we know of, like solar, wind, biogas, and so on, hemp-based products and energy, but into zero point energy, over unity energy, where we're able to take the next step into our knowingness and application and really remembering zero point energy using the power of magnetic fields, ley lines, taking ancient wisdom and partnering that in harmony with the wisdom we have. So that is called Visions for Regenerative Future, which is on our website at Zero Point Leadership Academy. And Zero Point Leadership Academy, as I'm waiting for some authors to hop on, is a co-creation that I'm a part of where we are activating new earth leaders for a world that works for all. A world of regenerative futures. It's all ages 0 to infinity, of not only learning empowerment circles, both online and person, but co-creating community movements, co-creating new earth schooling or unschooling, where we teach young people the skills and interpersonal skills they truly need. Mindfulness, empowerment, knowing ourselves as quantum beings across many lifetimes. Can you imagine the power of that for young people? Can you imagine? Now, I want to offer, this is my belief, it's not the truth, but my belief is that we have many lifetimes across many physical incarnations, at least here on Earth, just speaking for that for now. And there's oftentimes things that are impacting us across those lifetimes that we're not even aware of, because time is an illusion and it's not set to one locality. So if I was murdered as a Spartan soldier in the days of Sparta, and I have this fear that somebody could hurt me or betray me, perhaps that connected consciousness across time space is actually can still impact me until I become aware of it, until I declare through the power of the magic of my words, okay, I honor that, I release it, and that now that lifetime now no longer has an impact on me. I release that electromagnetic energy that is fractalizing me across all these dimensions, and I bring it into the present. And perhaps that's how we can, quote unquote, become superhuman, because we really won't be superhuman. We'll just be using all of our abilities, and we will be able to, instead of being fractals across all these infinite timelines, which are great to access when we choose, instead of doing that all the time, we have, 2 or 3 possibilities in front of us at any time, just like, walking one tightrope or a few tightropes, much easier than having 50 in front of us. However, maybe that's how we create a web that we can all get across. So I'm really open to any perspectives there. That's my belief. And I believe that young people should be able to explore those beliefs for themselves. Because despite I have beliefs in Zero Point Leadership Academy, when we do New Earth learning circles or whatever we're doing at that moment, I always like to say, this is my belief and I'm open to more. Can you imagine a world where we create that kind of communication? And that's what these conscious conversations are. Hal, I really appreciate you being on, and I'm so happy you're here. Please drop a comment, because I'm trying to remember if it was from the Develop program that I knew you at NASA Langley in Hampton, Virginia, or if it was in Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama, NASA Marshall, or maybe it was somewhere else and I can't remember where, or was it at Braxton Technology? I shouldn't overshare here, but I've done a lot of different things in different aerospace companies, and based on your first comment, I just can't quite remember how we're connected. I'm happy you're here because you've been an awesome divinely masculine influence here. I have Victoria backstage now, and I'm so excited because she's one of my close friends. I see that she has a copy of the book in her hands, and I'm going to bring her on now. Victoria, hello,
Hello, grand afternoon, grand day, wherever, grand night for some places in the world. Thank you for hosting this, for having me. I'm so excited to share and be here. Open for any questions. I'll share a little bit about myself. Maral actually introduced me into the sacred feminine, and the connection just spun from there even further with all of the great women entrepreneurs and leaders that have stepped up to the plate to really share unique and powerful stories that not only have the potential, but that I'm actually seeing being created every single day, just simply by being our most authentic selves, something that I continually strive to be. And as we also evolve, it's an extra challenge as we're faced with more and more opportunities that the world is experiencing right now, some of which are very challenging. But yeah, in my chapter, I share about how my consciousness has been transforming, where my true awakening began, which was when I became a mother, and the process that created within me, around me, seeing that newfound sense of love, and how during that time of my life, I was going through some really, really intense, difficult, challenging learning opportunities that I now see and know were part of my growth, and that I had to go through in order to be able to offer the skills and gifts that I'm here to offer. So one of those challenges,
Victoria,
yeah.
I want you to hear about that. I want to hear about those challenges because I love those challenge opportunities.
Oh yeah.
Can
Oh
you
yeah.
quickly, so that I can capture it and so people have time to capture it, the title of your reading, as well as the best ways to reach you, because I'm going to put it on the screen.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that beautiful transition. The title of my chapter is Underneath It All, Consciousness Through the Hoods of Identity. And you can reach me on Instagram at Sacred Solutions. It's the letter 8, CRED Solutions, SOULTIONS. You can also reach me through my website, which is Voracious, representing the truth. It's voraciousvictoria.com. And there's a variety of other ways that you can connect with me as well. If you're on a certain social media platform, there's most likely a chance that I'm on it as well. But I access Instagram most often, as well as my website and email through that conduit.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is the short version of her title, Underneath It All, from Sacred Feminine, a collection of insights from the higher self. Victoria is going to be sharing with us. Please connect with her now. Pause the video if you're watching it in the future, or do it at the same time, just so you don't forget to follow this beautiful person online, because she will inspire you every day with her vulnerability, which was what we talked about a second ago, a little bit ago with other authors, that being the key to create real transformation. And I think I put it up there correct on the screen. Victoria, can you see that?
Yep, perfect.
So I'm going to take myself off video as we dive in with you.
Okay, and let me know. I'll stop at a few points in time to make sure that there's enough time for anyone else who may want to share, whether that be an author or someone to ask questions. But
I feel that you can take quite a bit of time, because I'm not sure who else is coming for this live that we're doing. Well,
okay.
We have all 20 authors today, everyone. And so really just you be guided and take as much a beautiful space as you'd like, because I'm excited.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. I have a few ideas for where I can transition nicely and leave room for questions or continue to read. So yeah, I'll start here. Just as the internet is continually expanding, so is the unified field and the nature of consciousness. So much of what our physical reality depends upon is unseen. Although the human eye may not directly see a Wi-Fi or cell phone signal, we can see how many different types of technology are utilized within our day-to-day lives and the devices we use. We can think of each of our senses as an access point and indicator to that which is a portion of our human experience and observable reality. While each sense has independent functions, we have a richer sensory experience when we can indulge in the full entourage of a perfectly complete sensory experience. This involves perfect harmony and awareness of the individual components that make up the whole. I mention this because even what we view and experience on very extreme ends of the spectrum, that is, our awareness, is still only a tiny fraction of what's there. The entire rainbow of radiation observable to the human eye only makes up a tiny portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, about 0.0035%. This range of wavelengths is known as visible light. In knowing this, we realize that we are somewhat blind to almost everything that is happening around us, or in other words, in the dark. This is part of our human learning experience and is where the limitless potential exists. The same goes for every cell in your body. At the atomic level, it's mostly nothing. Often what we can't see is the space where one form of energy transfers into the next. Understanding that we are more than our 3D form is part of our soul's journey, and it is necessary for the refinement and evolution of our being. Our consciousness is the backbone of a holographic simulation that takes form in more than one dimension and transforms both individually and collectively, with one influencing the other. It moves freely and is around us and within us at all times, morphing with every thought, decision, and circumstance. It is unbreakable and uncontainable, yet exists within the container that is you, me, and us. The universe inside us creates the universe outside, which in turn recreates the reflection of our outer world. We often see this throughout patterns found in nature that correspond with the human body. For example, the internal structure of our lungs look like the branches of a tree. How fitting this is, since it is through trees that we receive the oxygen we need to breathe. And in return, our exhalation of carbon dioxide is what trees and plants breathe. Every moment is an opportunity for rebirth. Like a breath, we see and understand this relationship differently as we create, carry, and nourish the lives that become our children. We see and understand. Oh, sorry about that. As women, we see and understand this relationship differently as we create, carry, and nourish the lives that become our children. It is women who are in constant alignment with Earth's sister, the moon. Just like the moon waxing and waning every month, we experience these universal shifts in energy with her. The sacred and divine feminine energy that is Mother Earth is just as much a part of us as we are her, and we are her all together. That's also a funny play on words, which is something else that I can share more about later if you'd care to ask. The moon is a reminder that no matter what phase we're in, we're still whole. And the sun is a reminder that after darkness comes light. And still, after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the whole sky. It's one of my favorite quotes. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce the poet's name, but I think his last name is Hafiz. The universe is giving you signs every second of the day in every single way. In your sleep, on your timeline, in your conversations, on the radio, in the clouds, in epiphanies. Pay attention to them and piece them together. You will notice a pattern. The universe is communicating with you. As we journey through this divine feminine awakening and restore balance on earth, it's important to remember that every wound we heal within ourselves, we heal in the entire collective. This is an integrative and expansive process that is filled with loving connection and natural flow. When we heal trauma, we heal the nervous system. When we heal the nervous system, we heal the emotional body. When we heal the emotional body, we heal the psychic empathic body. When we heal the psychic body, we heal vibration. Once the vibration is healed, realities change. And I will end my segment there. But one of my greatest works, what I'm so passionate about doing, is helping people be the change in order to heal their vibration, in order to go through their own unique individual process through integrative connection and sessions that I carry out led through the heart that allow people to see beyond what might be challenging them circumstantially, and give them practical tools that they can utilize to empower themselves and heal themselves. So If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you for holding space, and I will listen now.
Awesome. I'm going to bring Jamie, who just brought on to as we just reflect from that. Amazing, so succinct yet so deep in what you just shared. That just first, thank you. And I loved so many things you said, and I want to specifically pull forward the play on words, because I think we're going to start seeing more realizations about the power of our words. And you said specifically talking about Mother Earth and energies with that, and the word together. Can you say what you were inferring there? Because I'm interested to hear, because I love when we talk about power words and
Sure.
atria and all the cool stuff.
Yeah, it's just been a part of the way my brain has worked for all this time, and it continues to come to me in new ways. I can really dive deep into that and how we interface with our external reality, sort of in an algorithmic way, even though it's much deeper than that. It's sort of like if you think of pulling up your social media, you start to see the same type of content because you're interacting with that content. So your reaction to what you're seeing is either pulling in magnetically what it is that you would like to see more of, or the opposite. And that's the same type of way that we relate to people, to our world, our reality. And that's why it's so powerful. And we have the ability to change the narrative, change the way we speak about things, reprogram our minds, bring what's subconscious to a superconscious level. And then all of a sudden we're able to have a deeper experience that really feels good, that really feels like this is what I want, this is what I am meant to be here for, instead of not necessarily instead of, but you're attracting more of what you would like instead of the more challenging situations, which still serve their purpose and place and are necessary. So it's this beautiful symbiotic relationship. When I think about Mother Earth, when I think about the sacred feminine, when I think about her with a capital H, it's together, to get her, is if you were to read that word out, to get her. So who is her? Who is she? Who are you? Who are me? All of these words and pronouns, and they're special and they hold significance, especially with what's going on right now. But I also think that we can all identify and relate with the purest sense of who we are. And that is where we find unity. That is where the connection exists, because we are all doing this together. Even though our paths are different, even though our gifts might be different, there is a uniting force no matter what. And so when I think of together, I really actually visualize, like that there's not a picture that I can even put to it, but I visualize, that relationship that you have with God, with your creator, with source, whatever you call it, that is her. So how do we get there? How do we figure out what the distance is between what we may be experiencing currently and what it will take to experience the life that we deserve? Perfect health is our birthright. Happiness is our birthright. There's so much that we are meant to be here for. And so what can we do throughout the struggle, throughout the challenges, to make up that difference between like, that was a part of me that I'm really struggling with, or this is something that I did that was like not my favorite version of me. She, he, God, whoever you call it, is there through it all, and is a part of you through it all. That is the part of you that is waiting to be seen, that is waiting to be awakened, so that you know that that's you, so that you see that in everyone else that you come into contact with, whether you agree with them or not. There's a level of compassion there because you're beginning to recognize that part of you and everyone else. So that's what I love to talk about, and words bring them up for review.
And
When I
together, that was a big phrase, like in this together, whether, whatever
Yes,
people had with using it. I think generally when it was used, it was from like, there's always in perspectives and what was really going on, the truth, and should you do this or that with the last 2 years. And, I'll engage in that sometimes, but generally I've started to come to divine neutrality and just focus on that. In this together, even if, we could talk about a certain issue and get at each other's throats about it, maybe we could breathe through that and say, okay, we don't agree on that. Let's talk about education for our young people in this community. And that's just what I got from what you just said, of the power of that word. And and how it's been used in the last couple of years. So thank you for kind of breaking down together to get her as we
Yeah,
all
and you can move it around so many different ways. And always remember, he is a part of her is a part of he. That's where we come in with the divine balance of the masculine and feminine. Same thing with she. He is a part of she is a part of he, the two words coming together. So you can rearrange it in a variety of different ways. I do this without even trying to. And just to touch back one quick thing, and then I'll be complete with
please.
when you mentioned perspectives. So that's been part of my process with my chapter underneath it all, the hoods of identity and consciousness, and what is that? What is pure consciousness? And something that recently came to me, another one of my little word games, is if you think of the word perspective and take it to point of view, and then just say, like, sometimes words will come up and they'll just repeat until I hear what I need to hear. So point of view is point of you. It's a point of you that you are being reintroduced to in a different perspective, like taking on a pair of 3D glasses or a pair of rose-colored glasses. You're trying on all these different glasses that we're kind of like sharing collectively in this kaleidoscope of experience. And it gives us the opportunity to see, okay, someone else's point of view is, it's a point of the whole that creates all of us in this together, all of us doing this, all of consciousness, all of humanity. We're contained, but we're interacting with each other in such special ways that our actual frequency, how we can change that is, it's this beautiful symphony of life. And so your point of view is just another point of you. So you might not see something the same way because you're sitting on the opposite side of the table, because you haven't had the same experiences as that person, because you don't know what it's like in this lifetime to be transgender, Black, any of the things that are causing all of this disruption of you're different, I'm different, this is my viewpoint, this is your viewpoint. And it's not meant to divide, it's meant to unify. It's meant for us to try these glasses on so we can get to that same uniting center, regardless of where you're from, what you think, your experiences, all of that. So I am complete. Thank you for letting me share. I'm sure you can tell that I'm passionate about this.
Yes.
And I love you both. Thank you, everyone, for whoever is listening now or in the future. We're connected. And thank you again. I'll end there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victoria. I love what she said about, and feel free to stay on. I know you may have things to tend to, so hop on and off as you need. And it reminded me of an analogy from a poem years ago. Basically, imagine if we're all sitting on a hillside stargazing, right? So Jamie's there with her new husband. Congratulations. She's a newlywed, and she's there. They're stargazing on their blanket. Victoria and her family, her husband and 2 kids are there. They have a cool little telescope. I'm there with my partner and our 2 kids. We got binoculars. There's thousands of people on this hillside, and we all have all these different ways of looking. Can you imagine if I was like looking up and I'm like, oh, them and their telescope over there, they don't even know what they're seeing. But instead, if I get out of that jokey perspective that you could imagine people fighting like, no, my view is right. My view is right of the sky. Instead, we're like, oh, let me see through. Oh, cool. I don't have this definition of my binoculars. This is cool. Or someone has an app that connects them to a satellite telescope now. Then instead of me seeing through my little singular focus, and I see this little part of the sky that I see to be my reality, this is how the sky looks. This is all it is. Instead, I invite, oh, wow, Jamie, thanks. Victoria, thanks. Thanks for letting me see through your tool, or even just from where you're standing with your bare eyes. That is so cool. Now I can see the whole sky. Now I see. And that has been the place I've been playing with now. I've been throwing around the word revelations a lot, not necessarily referencing the Bible, but I love that. It was brought up earlier by Jay Han. Last night, playing a really fun board game with friends. That was a word that came through for us, was revelations. It's this cool game called the Transformation Game, made back in the 80s. Dr. Kelly, my friend, introduced it to me. And it's like a spiritual board game, and it's so fun. I highly recommend it. And it was just cool that word revelation of like, wow, I see I see why we're all here. I see why we're one. And then the hard part is the cognitive dissonance that can come up when we're like, what do I do with that information? And so I'm going to lovingly just kind of transition here to invite Jamie to share. She is one of the hugest reasons, along with Jay Han, that this book was birthed. And so I'm just going to let her introduce herself. And then I'm going to move the video. I'm still here, though, if you need me, Jamie. Move the video to just Jamie.
Thank you, Maral. And I also want to acknowledge you, Victoria, because that was super insightful and I got a lot out of that. I just jumped on a few minutes before I was brought on to share, but everything that you shared was just so insightful and wise, and how like everything is just so connected. The perspective and someone else's view is just a view of me, and it can be exciting versus like disruptive, like, oh, that's a cool different view of me versus that's your view and this is my view. There's no need for the divisiveness or the division. So that was really awesome to hear that, and I think I jumped on at the perfect time. And if you're watching this now, if you're watching this later, it's great to be here with you. And let's see, introduce myself. So I am now Jamie Johnson because I recently got married a little over a month ago. And in the time that The Sacred Feminine was being written, I was newly engaged. So it's really interesting seeing all of this come full circle. And yeah, it's just an honor to be here with everyone, whether you're watching this now or later. Thank you, Maral, for putting this on. And yeah, I'm just going to be sharing a little bit from my chapter and what's important to me, and in the way that I can best contribute to the world in the best way that I know how is through matchmaking and relationship coaching or relationship consulting. I know those words get interchanged a lot these days. But basically holding space for people to create the most amazing relationships that they could possibly dream of, whether that's a romantic relationship or familial, and what it takes to really have that. So I'm going to be sharing from my chapter, and I haven't read this in a while, so it's exciting to be reading this again. And just to clarify, is that on par
what
with
is the
what we're
chapter
doing?
title? Because I want to put your chapter title at the bottom, and I just didn't have the book right next to me to open it up to capture that. And then also your information to reach people, so I'll put it on the bottom the whole time you're reading.
Sure. So my chapter is called Love and the Inner Child. And my Instagram handle changed. So it's now Jamie L. Johnson.
Awesome. Jamie L. I have it here on my phone too, so I'll get it right.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Meryl. My
your
website
website.
is still jamielindquist.com. Haven't changed that yet.
Can I just do your link tree? I see that.
Perfect.
I see it on your IG. Okay, cool. I'll pop that up.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. So here I go. I haven't read this in a while. So now that I'm married, it's going to be new for both of us. And here we go. At the time of writing this, I'm newly engaged. When it first happened, although I was excited, I had so many mixed feelings. There was an internal dance, or rather a battle, between how I felt and how I thought I should feel. I was saying things like, it's not a wedding, it's a love ceremony. Sure, it had all the characteristics of a wedding, like walking down the aisle and being announced husband and wife, but I hadn't admitted it. I also said it wasn't a marriage, but a sacred union. I was confronted by romanticism and the story and life goal of being married. I was also confronted by where marriage actually comes from and what it has turned into. People, mostly us women, live so much of our lives in pursuit of this event. But why is that? Let's start by acknowledging that as human beings, we can rely on the fantasy of future events to make us happy. A baby, a ring, a fancy wedding, and that beautiful modern house to call our home. It's not our fault. It's been ingrained in our subconscious mind since we were children. The Disney movies, the luxurious white dress, and the ring. Almost every little girl dreams about this event. They live in awe at the possibilities. Some of us plan our maid of honor and wedding colors before we leave grade school. I definitely did. Somewhere along the line, love and marriage collapsed into each other. The line between the two disappeared, so much so that some women begin to look for marriage instead of looking for love. Let's break it down. To be married equals to be wanted and deeply desired, to be taken fully, just as I am, to be loved. So, does that mean that if I'm not married, I'm not loved? Don't get me wrong, I strongly believe that the feminine deeply desires to belong to someone, to belong to the masculine. And I also believe that marriage is a beautiful, sacred commitment in which I am proud to participate. However, the emphasis and longing to be married means that so many of us are not present. We desire to marry someone, and after a while, that becomes anyone, because we stopped living in the now. There is such a loss of love, fulfillment, passion, and joy in what marriage meant in the first place. A few weeks had passed, and I reflected on how I have always wanted to be a wife. I had always wanted children and one lifelong husband. My mom had 2 and will likely have another, and my dad had 4 wives. Although there is nothing wrong with that, and there is definitely a need for divorce in certain cases, I was always committed to just having one husband. I'm sure that is the intention for most of us. Once I realized that I had this desire for over 20 years, I saw that the moment it became not just a desire, but a reality, fear started to kick in. Here's what it sounded like. What if this isn't it? What if we want to be with other people in the future? I mean, I'm in my 20s now, and to be together faithfully until death? That's quite a commitment. We're against the odds. The statistics show we will likely divorce. We met when I was 19. Is it even realistic to get married now? We don't need to have a piece of paper or to be legally married. We can just have a love party. It didn't help that my fiance was riding the same wave of trepidation I had been, and, unlike myself, he was not once a little girl dreaming of what his wedding bouquet would look like. His fear was feeding my fear, and my fear was feeding his. It was a classic vicious cycle, taking us deeper and deeper into the abyss, away from love, trust, and prosperity. And I don't want to share, be reading a little too much here, otherwise I'll read the whole chapter. But ultimately, what I want to share about this is we got married a month ago, and I'm really glad that we did, and I'm really glad that I had the experience I had, getting engaged, getting into the marriage, accepting it as a marriage, and noticing the resistance I had to commitment that I didn't actually think I had. I thought, I don't have any resistance to commitment. I mean, I'm engaged. I said, yes, I'm ready to do this. But there was something about the possibility that this could end badly that I had so much resistance to. And as I mentioned, it had me not be present, which was feeding Taj, my now husband's, ability to also be present. And we moved through it. And if you'd like to know more about how we moved through it, the conversations we got to have, and it was really an honor and blessing to be here with you. I don't know if there are any questions I should answer, or
I don't see any in the comments. If you're listening and you have any questions or reflections or things to share, always welcome to do so. And I just thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And I'd like to ask, what is like the one practical tip that you have that you use in not just your marriage, but any other relationship, like when there's challenging conversations or energies to navigate through? Like, what do you take what in those moments to help you like empower through it? What's like a simple one practical tip that you would love to offer?
This is such a great question, Merle. Thank you for asking that. I feel like right now it is, there's this conversation that as women, if we don't speak up, then we're being like subordinate, and we're being like, that you have to speak up. Otherwise, you're going to just get digged down to the ground, and toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. And while I think there is validity for sure to some of these conversations, sometimes what's needed for us is to not say anything, and is silence, and to kind of allow ourselves to sit back and not get into this stage of domination, avoid domination. It doesn't have to be that way. It can just be, okay, my beloved is, I don't know, angry about something, or maybe I'm angry about something. And verbal communication right away is not always the answer. Sometimes it is, but my invitation to whoever's listening to this is, if you find yourself in that situation where there's you and your beloved or somebody in your life are like this, just stop, and pause. And then ask yourself, if I were to say something right now, what is it that is wanted and needed? Or is silence what's wanted and needed? Is looking at my beloved what's wanted and needed? Is saying, I'm going to go for a walk and I'll be back. Is that what's wanted and needed? But ultimately, your intuition is boss. There's no right or wrong here. And, you don't always have to say something right away. Sometimes the best communication is saying nothing at all.
I love what you just said. Thank you so much, Jamie. That's like one of the best tips I think that I have heard, especially from a communication coach and life coach like you, and a matchmaker. That is so important to know that we don't always have to talk it out right now. And I've been practicing that personally. My partner and I have been learning each other's love languages, and being like, oh, mine is this, yours is that. They're like different, and complimenting, and that's a huge one, as he's a great listener and I'm a great talker. And so for me to be able to step back and listen more, and also to not always have to share play by play of everything, and then also not to always ask so many questions. Not that that's bad, like you said, intuition is queen, follow that. But sometimes I will, share more, ask more, depending on situation. But just actually just being together, with your mom, with your dad, with your friends, with your partner, if that's something for you, with your dog, with yourself. And instead of having to always self-analyze, or see how I need to improve or heal, or how they need to improve or heal, or should I have done this? Just being like, it's okay. We're here together. And and then, being willing to say, I think for me, my tidbit would be willing and practice in the mirror if you need to first, to say, I'm really sorry. And I see how I caused that to happen, or I see how I said that caused this to be your experience, and I'm really sorry. And it seems so simple, but we were talking about earlier too, imagine a world where we can teach young leaders to engage in conversations with each other and build a world with us that isn't based on making wrong and placing blame and seeing who has the bigger weapons, which all comes from the initial relationship of that spiraled out into humanity, whatever story you might want to think about, like Adam and Eve, or humanity just going from small tribes and then growing. It all stemmed from someone who gave someone a look. That was like how war started, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love what you said, and that it's so grounded in 100% responsibility. Being willing to say, I'm sorry, even if you don't think you did anything wrong, being willing to see it from their point of view, that you didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but that from their perspective, you did, and that it is all just perspective, and responsibility is one's access to love. So I love that you shared that. And definitely practicing in the mirror, because sometimes, and I can totally say this just openly, that sometimes if I say I'm sorry, I even hear it like, dude, this isn't really authentic. I'm just saying this to say it. I'm being good about a bad situation. I'm trying to be the good one right now and fix it. When ultimately, I'm not willing to actually get that, hey, wait a second, from my life partner, from my beloved, the love of my life's perspective, he's upset at something that I did. Where can I take responsibility so that we can have power, so that he can have power, and so that I can have power? And ultimately, then we can have love. So I love you brought that up, and well, practicing in the mirror is so amazing, especially for something like that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I loved this quick but beautiful conversation.
I love that you brought up responsibility, because before you even came on in my chapter, I talked about owning the collective responsibility of the situation on Earth, instead of being like, it's the Illuminati and the Rothschilds and they caused this and it was Columbus because he started. And actually, all that's true. Like, it is true that there has been such unprecedented violence and abuse of power and structure and money and everything. I know that that is all true. I went through many years as becoming aware of it, where I overly personally feel like I overly focused on it, went me down a rabbit hole, and didn't feel like I had much power. And then I shifted to seeing like, wait, if we all co-created this reality together, that means we all co-collectively agreed that this was going to happen on Earth. So if we can own that, and even if you don't have that same belief as me, that's okay. You can still think of it as like, well, in some way, I am impacting everyday flow of the planet. Even if you're an atheist and you have a different perspective of how everything works together, we can all agree that we all have a place on this earth. So really, instead of just feeling like the solution is serving justice to certain people, which should be done in certain situations, definitely, like different things that are coming to light right now, of course, legal justice should be served. And through our consciousness, how can we have this ability to respond? That's what responsibility is. Like you said, in that situation, I can relate to that situation too with my partner. It's like, instead of being like, well, you shouldn't feel that way, I'm just like, oh, I just caught myself either saying that or starting to say that. And I'll even sometimes tell him, I'll be like, hey, I was about to respond in not a great way, so let me take a step back. And I can really understand why you're feeling that way now that I just took a breath, and I see how I totally stepped over asking you about those plans before just making them. And I'm really sorry for that. Let's take a step back. Hold on. And that's been really, that's like that particular situation is one that comes up, especially as I learn to just be a better communicator, and knowing that like I'm this really extroverted outward person, he's more of an introverted person. And then when we come together, it's this perfect union, which we've been seeing together. We laughed like, oh, we're so different, laughing about it like, oh my gosh, we're like opposites. And that's actually cool, because we complement each other, and then we learn from each other. And I help him push out of his comfort zone. He helped push me out of my comfort zone with things that I want to avoid, being such an outward person, like helping me look at structures in my life and finance. And I'm helping him be like, hey, you know, those people actually probably are cool. Let's maybe try to trust them. Like, and yeah, that's been a really cool thing. And I love following everything you do online, because you have such cool content on not only relationships and empowerment, of course, matchmaking, but also healing the inner child, which you wrote about in your book. Is there any last words you'd like to say about like that concept and kind of how it brings it all together to that concept?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up, because how it actually started is I would work with people specifically on their inner child as the intention. But what was happening as a result is they were creating these freaking magical relationships with their parents, with their siblings, calling in a new person that just almost dropped magically into their lap out of, playing with the inner child and exploring with that part of them that they maybe forgot all about. And that it is a dance of work and play with the inner child. There's some conversations to be had with them. There's some play to be had with them. And And yeah, that is ultimately what I've found in my experience to be the access to fulfilling relationship, familial, romantic, sexual, whatever dynamic one would like, that doing the inner child work or inner child play is one's access to fulfilling relationships. So I'm super passionate about that. And in my coaching programs, that is something that half of the time we're doing. People might think that I'm just going to like give them advice and tell them like what to say to this guy or what to say to this girl. But it's really not that at all. That it is stuff that they didn't expect, which is good. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't touch on that at all during the call.
It's all connected. That's been coming up so much for my friends and I as we prepare for the Up Level World Summit that you can find info on my social media. We had this whole talk as we recorded our presentation about the web, and how, let's say an example of the web in real time is, say one day I'm feeling like really weak, I'm feeling down on myself, but I can reach out to Jamie and she's like, she had that week last week, but then now she's like, hey, I know I literally just went through this where I was just doubting everything I was doing, and I was just like having all these same self-defeating thoughts. I thought I healed. And then she's able to help listen and also share and reflect with me. So she's part of that web with me. And that's how a spider web and also other geometries work, where in nature, where like one side might be weak, but as that side's getting repaired, this side is helping keep that spider web alive. And that, spiders create these beautiful tapestries, and that are extremely strong if you actually measure the strength of them molecularly. And so that concept has been coming up. So coming on these conversations, Jamie, you co-creating this with all of us. I was joking before we came on that you and Jay Han are like the moms of this book. we all birthed it together.
Yes.
And you two were like the
we're like the doulas.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. I like that. You are the doulas of the birthing of the Sacred Feminine, a collection of insights from the higher self. As Jehan said earlier, they are going to be doing a volume 2 of this. And so I'll share again here up on the screen. If you're interested in getting involved in volume 2, just email the Sacred Feminine Book at gmail.com. If you're just interested, or maybe you know someone, then just ask the question. If you're not sure, then you can fill into it through a conversation with Jamie and Jehan. And would you like to share anything about that, Jamie, as we invite others to do that?
I'm going to say that your intuition is boss. So if you feel the call, we want to hear from you. And even if you're curious, you have a question, ask us. It's not going to be like a sales call or something like that. We just want to know if it's a match for both of us. And what we do know is that there are a lot of women in the world that would love to share their stories, and they just don't know where to start. And the cool thing about a co-authorship is that everything is pretty much done for you except for your writing, and you get total reign and control over what you write. It is a self-published work of art, so you get to choose what to say, and we just get to hold space for it. And it was such a heart-opening experience for us being the doulas, and for just experiencing such amazing women from literally all different over the world to come together to create something so powerful that is so dynamic. I mean, some of the things some of the women wrote, I had no idea about. It might not be something that would come out of my mouth, or that maybe I wouldn't say it that way. And that's what makes it so beautiful, is that it is the connection of everybody in one physical thing. So I absolutely loved doula-ing it, midwifing it. And I would do it so many times over and over again. And thank you, Maral, for your just freaking amazingness and power and grace and beauty, and how much you are here to deeply serve people. And I'm really glad that I've gotten to know you super well out of this experience. And yeah, it's been a blessing. And
thank you so much. And you can reach Jamie Johnson online at these links. There is her link tree to all of her various connections there, as well as on Instagram, Jamie L. Johnson. And don't forget, she's a matchmaker and a good one at that. So you or someone you might know, they might want that. And so I'm gonna, thanks Jamie. I
Thank
am
you.
going to move to the end of this segment. And as we end at 2:22 here, to just honor some of the people that inspired me as authors, because this is kind of like an author-centric talk. And there's a lot of people that inspired me. And one of them was Charles Eisenstein. He is an amazing author. And he actually wrote a book called The Sacred Economics, which I reference a lot in my chapter. And I just want to show you how to find him. There's so many other authors I could mention, but he is one of the biggest inspirations for me. And this book, which is also a short 14-minute documentary, is called Sacred Economics: Money, Gift, and Society in the Age of Transition, which is a really, really powerful book as well as short documentary. And I'm going to just show you part of that. Let's see if it's sharing my audio. I actually don't think it is, so I'm going to redo that share. And I'm just going to show you part of that video because it speaks to literally everything we shared today. And today was pretty organic. It might seem pretty like cool with everything with the StreamYard tool, but we actually just talked, and what everyone shared just magically went together. And so I want to share with you a part of the Sacred Economics documentary where he is talking about how, we know that there's something more. So why do we keep putting ourselves through this experience? And you can find his information by looking up Charles Eisenstein or finding sacred-economics.com/film. And this is also on YouTube as well. So I'm just going to actually share part of this.
Anytime you want to understand something, why is such and such happening? Why is there a biodiversity crisis? Or why are we drilling for more oil when it's polluting the atmosphere and causing oil spills? Why? And you ask why, and down a couple levels of why, you always get to money. Yeah, I talk a lot about the story of self that every culture has, and it answers the question, what are you? What is it to be human? So it says that you're this separate being among other separate beings in a universe that is separate from yourself as well. Like, you're not me, that plant is not me, that's something separate. And this story of self really creates our world. If you're a separate self and there's other separate selves out there and other species out there, and the universe is fundamentally indifferent to you, or even hostile, then you definitely want to control. You want to be able to have power over other beings and over these whimsical, arbitrary forces of nature that could extinguish you at any time. This story is becoming obsolete. It's becoming no longer true. We don't resonate with it anymore. And it's actually generating crises that are insoluble from the methods of control. And that's what's clearing the space for us to step into a new story of self and a new story of the people. Well, money's an agreement. It doesn't have value all by itself. It has value because people agree that it has value. Economists will tell you what money does. It facilitates exchange. You use it to count things and keep track of things. You write some numbers on a magical piece of paper called a check, and you can cause all kinds of abundant goods to come to your house. I mean, you could even cause misery for thousands of people if you are one of the highest initiates of the magic of money. Scarcity is built into the money system. On the most obvious level, it's because of the way money is created as interest-bearing debt. So anytime a bank lends money into existence or the Federal Reserve creates money, the money comes along with a corresponding amount of debt. And the debt, because there's interest on it, is always greater than the amount of money. So it essentially throws people into competition with each other for never enough money. Growth is another thing that's built into our money system. If you're a bank, you're going to lend to the person who's going to create new goods and services so they can profit and they can pay you back. You're not going to lend to somebody who doesn't create goods and services. So money goes toward those who will create even more of it. But basically, economic growth means that you have to find something that was once nature and make it into a good, or was once a gift relationship and make it into a service. You have to find something that people once got for free or did for themselves or for each other, and then take it away and sell it back to them somehow. By turning things into commodities, we get cut off from nature in the same ways we're cut off from community. We look at nature with eyes of it's just a bunch of stuff. And that leaves us very lonely and leaves us with many basic human needs that go unmet. And if you have money, you might try to fulfill this hunger through purchasing, through buying things, or through accumulating money itself. And of course, now we're nearing the end of growth. The planet can't sustain much more growth. And that's why the crisis that we have today won't go away. One of the things I talk about is the sense of wrongness that I had as a child. Like, I think most kids have some sense of it, that it's not supposed to be this way. You know, just for example, that you're not supposed to actually hate Monday and be happy when you don't have to go to school. Like, school should be something that you love. Life should be something that you love. We didn't earn any of the things that really keep us alive or that make life good. We didn't earn air. We didn't earn being born. We didn't earn our conception. We didn't earn being able to breathe. We didn't earn having a planet that can provide food. We didn't earn the sun. So I think that on some level, people have this inborn gratitude because on some level, we know that we didn't earn any of this. We know that life is a gift. Well, if you know that you've received a gift, then the natural response is gratitude, you know, the desire to give in turn. In a gift economy, it's not true the way it is in our money economy that everybody's in competition with everybody else. In a gift society, if you have more than you need, you give it to somebody who needs it. That's how you get status. And that's even where security comes from. Because if you build up all that gratitude, then people are going to take care of you too. And if there are no gifts, then there's no community. And we can see as societies become more monetized, that community has disappeared. People long for it, but you can't just have community as an add-on to a monetized life. You have to actually need each other.
I really, really love what he says there about you can't just have community as an add-on to a monetized life. You actually have to need each other. And that's what we demonstrated today. I invite you to check out the link on the screen to support Charles Eisenstein. He's been one of my hugest inspirations. We are after 2:22 p.m. here Mountain Time. So I want to end the short breathing together. Anyone here live or listening in the future, just taking a simple deep breath. And improvisationally, we'll let some words flow through. We are exactly where we need to be. You all are exactly where you need to be. You, I, we are humanity, cosmic family. We are so divine, you see, and we are realizing our true infinity within and without. No doubt we are the ones we have been waiting for. Thank you, everyone. This is Do Renee with 0 Point Leadership Academy. You can stay connected. Follow me at Do Renee to get connected to 0 Point Leadership Academy, our teachings, radical quantum self-love, singularity movement. We have more coming up down the pipeline, like being able to invoke avatar movement with the elements, young leader inspirations, as we have young leaders actually teach each other how they're navigating these challenging times. Our next New Earth Learning Circle is September 29th. You can follow 0 Point Leadership Academy online to find out about that. It is an in-person event, a New Earth Learning Circle. All ages, all teacher learners, welcome, as we remember some of the skills we need to traverse these times. Thank you all so much for being here, and we'll be going live every month. 0 Point Leadership Academy and myself, other amazing teacher learners around the world. I'm so grateful that we all got to come here together to discuss the Sacred Feminine and the collection insights from the higher self. And if you are at all interested in becoming an author, if you've ever thought about this, that's something that I do, is help people become authors. So reach out to me. And specifically, if you want to be a part of Volume 2, this is Volume 1, then send an email to thesacredfeminine@gmail.com. Thank you all so much. Peace, love, namaste. We are one, we are one, we are one. It is done.